A bull stands frozen in terror. A horse screams in agony. A woman holds her dead child, wailing toward the sky. This isn't just any painting hanging in a museum. This is Pablo Picasso's Guernica, and behind its twisted figures lies one of the most horrific war crimes of the 20th century. April 26, 1937. It was market day in Guernica, a small Basque town in northern Spain. Farmers had come from surrounding villages to sell their crops and livestock. Children played in the cobblestone streets while their mothers haggled over prices. Nobody knew that within hours their peaceful town would become the testing ground for a new kind of warfare that would change the world forever. At 4:30 in the afternoon, the church bells were ringing when people heard a low rumbling sound from the sky. German Condor Legion planes appeared over the horizon, followed by Italian fighter jets. The Spanish Civil War had been raging for almost a year, but Guernica had no military targets, no soldiers, no weapons factories, just ordinary people living ordinary lives. The first bombs fell on the center of town. Buildings exploded into rubble. People ran screaming through the streets, carrying their children, searching for shelter, but there was nowhere to hide. For 3.5 hours, wave after wave of planes dropped explosive bombs and incendiary devices designed to start fires. When people fled to the countryside, fighter planes swooped down and machine-gunned them. Pablo Picasso was 1,200 miles away in Paris when he heard the news. The 55-year-old artist had already revolutionized painting twice. First with his Blue Period, then by creating Cubism alongside Georges Braque. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. As reports trickled in about the destruction of Guernica, Picasso felt something he had never experienced before: raw, burning rage. The bombing of Guernica wasn't just another military attack. It was the world's first aerial bombing of civilians. Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy were testing their new war machines, practicing for the larger war they were planning. They wanted to see how effectively they could terrorize an entire population from the sky. Guernica was their laboratory. The Basque people were their test subjects. Within days, photographs appeared in newspapers across Europe. Twisted metal, collapsed buildings, bodies in the streets. But these black and white images couldn't capture the full horror. They couldn't show the screams of mothers searching for their children. They couldn't reveal the terror in people's eyes as they realized nowhere was safe. The Spanish government had commissioned Picasso to create a painting for the Spanish Pavilion at the 1937 Paris International Exhibition. For months, he had struggled to find his subject. He had sketched bulls and horses, but nothing felt urgent enough. Nothing felt important enough. Then Guernica happened, and suddenly Picasso knew exactly what he had to paint. He rented a large studio on Rue des Grands Augustins in Paris. The space was enormous, with high ceilings and tall windows that flooded the room with natural light. Picasso ordered a canvas that measured over 25 feet wide and 11 feet tall. It was so massive that he had to step back just to see the entire surface. This wasn't going to be just another painting. This was going to be his weapon against war. For 35 days, Picasso worked like a man possessed. He arrived at his studio every morning at 9 and painted until exhaustion forced him to stop. His assistant, Dora Maar, photographed the painting's progress, capturing each stage as Picasso built his masterpiece. In the early sketches, we can see him experimenting with different compositions, moving figures around like pieces on a chessboard of suffering. The bull became central to the Picasso Guernica painting. In Spanish culture, bulls represent both Spain itself and the brutality of conflict. But Picasso's bull isn't triumphant or powerful. It stands confused and helpless, watching the destruction unfold. Next to the bull, a horse writhes in agony, a spear piercing its body. The horse's mouth is open in a scream of pain that seems to echo across the entire canvas. On the left side of the Picasso Guernica painting, a woman holds her dead child, her face twisted upward in a wail of grief that could shatter stone. This image came directly from the photographs Picasso had seen of Guernica's aftermath. Real mothers had held their real children this way. Real voices had cried out in exactly this anguish. Above the chaos, a single eye stares down from what might be the sun or might be the eye of God. Below it, a bull's head and a light bulb hang suspended, casting harsh light on the scene. Some art historians believe the light bulb represents the bombs themselves, exploding with deadly illumination. Others think it symbolizes the harsh light of truth, exposing the horror of modern warfare. But here's what makes the Picasso Guernica painting truly revolutionary. Picasso painted it entirely in black, white, and grey. No color, no beautiful blues or warm reds. Just the stark contrast between light and dark, life and death, hope and despair. Color would have made the painting too beautiful, and Picasso didn't want anyone to find beauty in this subject. He wanted viewers to feel the full weight of war's brutality. As Picasso worked, the Spanish Civil War continued to rage. Francisco Franco's nationalist forces, supported by Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, were winning. The democratically elected Spanish Republic was losing ground every day. Guernica had been a symbol of Basque independence and democratic values. Its destruction sent a clear message to anyone who opposed fascism. The painting was finished just in time for the Paris exhibition. When visitors first saw the Picasso Guernica painting, they were stunned into silence. Some burst into tears. Others stood frozen, trying to process what they were seeing. This wasn't art as decoration or entertainment. This was art as testimony, art as evidence, art as a cry for justice. After the exhibition, the Picasso Guernica painting began a journey around the world. Picasso sent it on tour to raise money for Spanish refugees fleeing Franco's regime. The painting traveled to London, then to New York, where it would remain for decades. Picasso had made one condition: the Picasso Guernica painting could not return to Spain until democracy was restored. Franco's dictatorship lasted for 39 years. During that time, the Spanish government tried repeatedly to bring the Picasso Guernica painting home, but Picasso refused every request. The painting became a symbol of resistance, a reminder that some crimes against humanity are too terrible to forget or forgive. What many people don't know is that the bombing of Guernica was essentially a dress rehearsal. The techniques tested there, the systematic targeting of civilians, the use of incendiary bombs to maximize terror, the coordination of different types of aircraft, would all be used just 2 years later when Germany invaded Poland and launched World War II. The destruction of Guernica introduced the world to total war, where the line between soldiers and civilians disappeared entirely. It showed that in modern conflict, everyone becomes a target. Your home becomes a battlefield. Your neighborhood becomes a war zone. Safety becomes an illusion. Picasso understood that traditional ways of depicting war were no longer adequate. Pretty paintings of noble soldiers on horseback couldn't capture the reality of bombs falling from the sky onto innocent people. He needed a new visual language, and he found it in the fragmented, angular style of Cubism. The broken forms in the Picasso Guernica painting mirror the broken bodies and broken lives left behind by modern warfare. The woman holding a lamp on the right side of the Picasso Guernica painting represents the search for truth. She's trying to illuminate the darkness, to help people see clearly what has happened. But notice how her light is small and fragile compared to the massive destruction surrounding her. Truth-telling is dangerous work, especially when powerful people want their crimes to remain hidden. After World War II ended, the Picasso Guernica painting took on new meaning. It wasn't just about one town in Spain anymore. It had become a universal symbol against all war, all violence against innocent people. When the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people thought of Guernica. When civilian areas were bombed in Korea and Vietnam, people thought of Guernica. The painting's influence extended far beyond art galleries and museums. During the 1960s, anti-war protesters carried images of the Picasso Guernica painting at demonstrations against the Vietnam War. In the 1980s, peace activists used it to protest nuclear weapons. Every generation has found new relevance in Picasso's masterpiece. In 1975, Francisco Franco finally died, and Spain began its transition to democracy. Picasso had died 2 years earlier, but his wishes were honored. Negotiations began to bring the Picasso Guernica painting home to Spain. In 1981, exactly 44 years after Picasso created it, the painting finally arrived in Madrid. The homecoming was emotional and controversial. Some people argued that the painting should remain in New York, where it had been safe during the Franco years. Others insisted it belonged in the Basque region, near the site of the original bombing. But Picasso had been specific. The painting should go to Madrid's Prado Museum when democracy returned to Spain. Today, the Picasso Guernica painting hangs in Madrid's Reina Sofia Museum, protected by bulletproof glass and sophisticated security systems. Millions of visitors come to see it every year. School children learn about the Spanish Civil War by studying its images. Historians use it to explain how propaganda and terror work together. But the painting's most important audience might be political leaders. In 2003, when U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell addressed the United Nations about the invasion of Iraq, a tapestry reproduction of the Picasso Guernica painting hanging behind the podium was covered with a blue cloth. Officials said it would be distracting during television broadcasts, but many observers believed the real reason was that no one wanted to discuss war while standing in front of Picasso's anti-war masterpiece. The town of Guernica was rebuilt after the bombing, but it never forgot what happened that April afternoon in 1937. Today, it houses a peace museum and hosts international conferences on human rights. The oak tree that had stood in the town center for centuries somehow survived the bombing, and it became a symbol of resilience and renewal. What makes Picasso's response to Guernica so remarkable isn't just that he created a powerful painting, it's that he understood art's capacity to preserve memory and demand justice. The Picasso Guernica painting ensures that we cannot forget what happened. It makes sure that the people who died that day are remembered not just as statistics, but as human beings who suffered and deserved better. The technical innovations Picasso used in the Picasso Guernica painting influenced artists for generations. The fragmented figures, the multiple perspectives, the stark monochromatic palette, all of these techniques have been adopted by artists trying to depict trauma and social injustice. From murals about civil rights to paintings about genocide, artists continue to use lessons learned from studying the Picasso Guernica painting. Perhaps most importantly, the Picasso Guernica painting proves that art can be both beautiful and terrible, both aesthetically powerful and politically urgent. It shows us that the greatest artworks don't just decorate our walls, they challenge our consciences and demand that we confront difficult truths about our world. Here's something to think about. If Pablo Picasso were alive today and witnessed a similar tragedy, how do you think he would respond using modern technology and social media? Would digital art have the same lasting impact as the Picasso Guernica painting, or does something about traditional canvas and paint make certain messages more powerful? The story of the Picasso Guernica painting reminds us that art matters most when it refuses to look away from suffering, when it insists on bearing witness, when it transforms personal outrage into universal truth. Picasso could have painted pretty pictures of flowers or dancers. Instead, he chose to paint one of humanity's darkest moments, and in doing so, created one of our greatest masterpieces.